Welcome to Voluntaryist Academy. Voluntaryist Academy is an educational platform dedicated to the principles of non-aggression, self-ownership, and the ethical philosophy of voluntarism. Here, we reject the mythology of political authority and embrace the timeless truth that all human interaction should be grounded in consent and moral integrity. Through rigorous study, in-depth courses, and accessible materials, Voluntaryist Academy equips individuals with the tools to critically examine the foundations of coercive systems and to replace them with the voluntary, peaceful alternatives rooted in natural law. Whether you are new to these ideas or looking to deepen your understanding, Voluntaryist Academy provides a structured path to intellectual freedom, ethical consistency, and personal sovereignty. Welcome, explore the curriculum, challenge false assumptions, learn to live free. Oh, that's the wrong thumbnail. Anyways, thank you for tuning in. Tonight's going to be fun. In case you're wondering, it is a swapcast. A swapcast is when two creators join forces, and it's neither mine or his podcast. We're just coming together like Voltron. But you're going to meet Luemas from Chant It Down. You can find him at chantitdownradio.com. He's a veteran of the game. He's been running his podcast for 12 years. And much respect to Luemas over at chantitdownradio.com, host of Chant It Down podcast. If you would like to become a supporter of this show, a sponsor, you can do so over at voluntaristacademy.com. And you can become a member and join the Discord and get to know me outside of the show. Come to the town hall. The first town hall will be this Tuesday. Actually, no, it will not. Excuse me. So anyways, sorry that I said that. I am occupied this Tuesday. In any case, so the topic tonight is the alternative media as a PSYOP. Is the alternative media a PSYOP? What is controlled opposition? How do we tell with a well-trained ear and a well-trained eye how to discern for ourselves truth from lies? So I did not mean to rhyme there. I'm very excited because Luemas is such a great guy, and we could learn a lot from Luemas. So yeah, go check out voluntaristacademy.com. Make sure you check out chantitdownradio.com. If you would like to join the chat away. This is a pre-recorded. This was pre-recorded on Thursday, and I will be in the chat, and maybe who knows who else will pop in the chat. If you're viewing the replay of this, or if just leave a thumbs up on the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. All this is the most accessible way that you could help this channel grow a little bit, just a little bit. And if you want to, like I've already mentioned, if you want to do more than just that, you can donate over at voluntaristacademy.com, or you can become a sponsor, and for $3 a month, you can join the Discord. We'll have a bi-weekly town hall where we get to, meet as a group. You get to meet with me. And if you want more than that, then there's another option at the Buy Me a Coffee link, where you can have a one-on-one meeting with me twice. I think it's once a week, and a 1 hour one-on-one meeting with me for once a week. I have a good ear, and I have a lot of experience with life, and perhaps I could help you. And so you can decide for yourself whether or not you want to take advantage of that offer. But for now, just enjoy the show, and let me know what you think in the comments. See you on the other side. Perhaps we'll take some calls. Oh, that's the other thing too. I'm going to start doing call-ins. And if you want to be able to call into the show, well, become a member. All right. Now, on to the interview, or the swapcast. It's not an interview, it's a swapcast. Cool.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to a Swapcast with Voluntarist Academy, James Cordner. And we're doing a kind of a joint venture here today. And thanks, everybody, for joining us. We're going to have a discussion on a few different things, but I thought maybe first of all, we could just get people to get to know each other's podcasts a little bit. So, James, welcome and tell people about Voluntarist Academy.
Yeah, gladly. Welcome to Voluntaryist Academy, Luemas. It's an operation that I run. It's a educational platform dedicated to the principles of non-aggression, self-ownership, and the ethical philosophy of voluntarism. And in Voluntarist Academy, we reject the mythology of political authority and embrace the timeless truth that all human interaction should be grounded in consent and moral integrity. I provide various curriculum uh, and through the means of basically just books on tape, stopping intermittently and giving my own kind of commentary throughout. So it's not as dry and boring. It's a project I've been working on for the past 2 years, about 2 years now. And so it's really great because whether you're new to these ideas or looking to deepen your understanding, I provide a structured path to what I like to call intellectual freedom. Also, you can gain some ethical consistency, and in doing so, hopefully some personal sovereignty. So, yeah, my slogan at Voluntarist Academy is that you own yourself. Period. Like you gotta own yourself. You gotta come into your own ownership of yourself, and hopefully that makes sense to your viewers. Is it
Oh yeah.
to own yourself is to be free, and to be free you must own yourself. It's kind of a circular thing there.
No,
So,
yeah, that
but you Loomis, you host a podcast called Chant It Down.
correct. Yes.
So you let me and my audience know what what is Chant It Down.
Well, the core theme of my show is to chant down the system. So, in other words, I take the system away from your mind and body as much as possible. Chant down the media, authority, government. Stop eating poisonous foods. Chant down your school, the education system, your job, politics, and get away from mind control in general. And of course, I cover a huge variety of topics, and I try to connect dots on like widely diverse topics to get a look at what this world really is. But in the very beginning, it was always just getting away from the system and trying to be free and getting away from the mind control that is out there that takes all of our people we know and ourselves that have had to come out of it. So that was always my number one mission, is to help people come out of this and inform them along the way. So that's kind of what I've been doing. My show's been ongoing for 12 and a half years. I don't know how that happened, but it's just been that thing I do on the side with a full-time job. But it's like, where do you put this information? You got to put it somewhere. And so that's what I do over at Chant It Down.
Congratulations, 12 and a half years, huh?
Yeah,
Uh,
thank you. I don't know. I mean, it's still just that thing I do on the side, but it's hopefully I know it's helped some people, and that's what I'm happy about. Is I've had some uh, people that have written me and said, yeah, thanks for that, and so at least it's doing something. It's an oversaturated world out there with podcasts, but when you speak the real truth, people hear it and they know it and they want it, and that's this. Your podcast is the same. People will gravitate toward hard truth rather than just kind of half-ass stuff. So yeah,
yeah, that's what we hope for.
yeah,
Um, this is not our first meeting.
no,
We were on Sean McCann and I had a joint venture at one point called Black Pill Digest, and you were able to join us for an episode or two. I think it was one that I can very much remember, and then oh wait, no, the second one I'm thinking of is Sean McCann and I came on your podcast.
Yeah, you did. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
at
we
one
had
point.
one about cops and
Yes.
law enforcement, and
Yes.
yes, an expose. Yeah, that was a good one. Yes.
Well,
Yeah. Oh, you might want to mention too that you're part of the One Great Work Network,
oh
um,
yeah. Yep.
that
The One Great
that's a
Work Network.
great
The,
collective.
well, it's sort of like a central hub for creators, content creators who focus their energy on natural law and kind of really trying to get the message of objective morality and freedom and what it's going to take to uh, achieve true liberty. Uh, and so Mark Passio created the One Great Work Network to kind of serve as like a one-stop shop where you can kind of, I call it the Baskin Robbins of freedom, where you can go in and find the creator that kind of uh, fits your style of listenership, and you'll be able to kind of learn a lot from a lot of different people should you choose. So people want to go to onegreatworknetwork.com and start going down the list, because you get all sorts of different approaches to this. We have a lot of natural law philosophers, a lot of anarchist philosophers, voluntarists, occult, people that are going into the occult and kind of demystifying it and bringing it to the light. Because occult, for your audience, the word, oh, it's scary. Oh my God. Do you think of like Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut? And oh my God. But really, all it means is hidden. Occult, to occult something is to hide it. So to drag it out into the light is to de-occult something, is to tell the truth about it and no longer keep it hidden. And that's kind of our mission over at onegreatworknetwork.com. And there's over 70 content creators on that list right now. And Mark's done a phenomenal job of creating a home for all of us, and a place for everyone who's interested in that type of material to go and click around, like I said, and find the flavor that they want to fill their cup with.
Yeah. Yeah, Mark Passio definitely inspired me way back, and well, still does, but like I mean he was one of the people that really brought out some things I could have never learned from any other person, I don't think. And I don't know where you come in at, but I found him on Oracle Broadcasting a long time ago, and Freeman was another one of my kind of go-to people as well. And then there was just this great group of people on Oracle Broadcasting, my friend Bob Tuscan as well. And then it just was a great place where all this information was coming, like really mind-blowing and um, just dynamic information that was coming out. And so Mark was one of those people that helped me along the way. So I'm thankful to have been able to find him just randomly too. And so yeah, I just have to say that because that guy really put out a lot of great, still does. I mean, his work is unmatched, really, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, growing up, kind of it almost makes too much sense that I'd be led that I'd find myself to the on the One Great Work Network, or kind of like forming a friendship with these guys that are doing these things. I mean, I come from like the skate punk culture, the kind of the the disobedient youth culture, and the f you, I won't do what you tell me type of culture. And so through the skate punk culture, I get introduced to Skatopia through a video game, and I'm like, what's this place? And I hear about anarchism for the first time through my research, and for a while there, through my early teens, I was, you remember, if you've ever seen, for you, Loomis, or your listeners or our listeners, if you've ever seen that movie Talladega Nights. It's a Will Ferrell movie, and at
Yeah,
one
I have.
point,
Uh-huh.
yeah, at
Yep.
one point during the movie, one of his kids, like is screaming anarchy. I have no idea what it means, but I love it. So like I thought that was hilarious when that came out, but because that was much like my childhood, like I just knew that it was being disobedient. That's what I thought it meant. Turns out sort of in a very sophomoric sense means that, but I mean, just means no masters,
Yeah.
no rulers without rulers. And I gravitated toward that because I just have always had this instinct that I own my body and that I should be able to make my own decisions, and that my natural my natural state, like my natural rights, like the ability to make my own decisions and have control over my own body, and it was really important to me from a very young age. So I mean, I met Sean McCann back in like 2003,
Oh
and
wow.
so he and I have been friends ever since. And he knew more. He was like the next step, and then through the years, he kind of brought me along in my gaining of understanding, my search for knowledge, and he brought me along on his own journey too. So we've been really good friends for a very long time. And he found Mark Passio and put Mark Passio in front of me. And I was listening to Mark, and I was like, oh, this guy's awesome. He's gonna yell about taxes being bullshit, and he's gonna yell about cops being, yeah, and but then it started becoming more than just that. And it was like I started listening even deeper, and I wanted to know more. And then after a little while, I had already started running a podcast anyways. And my before I even really got into Mark Passio, I was trying to start up a podcast about individuality and spirituality and freedom. I just didn't really know where to put it, like how to put it. And it's just one thing after another. I just kind of came together, and here we are. So
Yeah.
yeah, Mark's been instrumental in many people's understanding of natural law, and it's really he's like the no bullshit taking uncle that everyone kind of needs in their life, where they're like, hey dummy, what are you doing, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
knocking you on the top of your head. Hey, knock knock, anyone home?
Hmm.
So but he can in real life, in person, not to put too much out there for him, but I've met him in person, and he's really cool. Like, he's not screaming. So he uses his platform for his own, not to speak too much for him, but it's clear to me that he uses his platform for his own outlet. And we're all better for it, really, if you can listen to him yelling, and you know why. And well, much of like what we're trying to discuss here today about, the alternative media and the kind of state of freedom. And yeah, it's not good.
No.
So
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's not good. And that's segues right into like kind of what our central theme is here. We're because if we're going to take a look at this entire alternative media and take a look, I feel like there is no movement. I see a circus and a mess, unfortunately. And I'm not trying to come from some high horse either. And there's better work that I can do that I haven't done. There's always room for me to improve, and I'm not coming from some ego or anything here. But what we just have to really take a good look at what's actually happening. I mean, I think podcasts are so oversaturated now. You got every, especially since COVID, so much. And I think anyone making a living off of it, I give hats off to. I mean, just because it's hard to get above the crowd, but I see a lot of flawed ideologies out there, and I see a lot of shoddy research, jump to conclusions garbage, and people that have probably never read whole books. I mean, I hate to say it, like, but internet researchers and people believing in psyops. I mean, it's the worst part. I think is I hardly hear people talking about true freedom or morality or much really right action. And not all is garbage. I mean, of course there's some awesome and incredible people, and we probably have some of them on our shows, and you know, or talking about some of the greats like Passio. But I mean, the strong side is that people that are not co-opted or planted out there have a lot of true care. in order to want to warn people and teach people about the world. So I'm not like throwing out the baby with the bathwater here, but this care factor does give me hope. But when I hear people say something like the truth movement or the so-called truth movement, a lot of people always say stuff like so-called truth movement or better and better in other words or something. I've heard that for the last 15 years because it really isn't really a movement. It's become a culture. And this is when something becomes a culture, the word cult comes into play. I mean, you get groupthink, you get the crowd mind and less objective truth seeking. So I think it's true of anything. When something kind of becomes a scene more, you get more people like that. So, but yeah, sorry to go off on a rant, but that's just like kind of what I've been seeing for many years now, is this kind of scene with a lot of groupthink and a lot of half-ass truth coming out.
Yeah. The I agree with much of what you're saying. For myself, what I'm seeing happen is the alternative media being co-opted into kind of shuffling people into just another what we could call like dead end street or cul-de-sac, where they're just gonna find themselves just going round and around and around about things that amount to almost nothing. They feel like something in the moment, but they really don't really get you anywhere. That's why the metaphor of dead end street or cul-de-sac kind of works. Um, a lot of logical inconsistencies, like you said, a lot of buying into psyops. Completely agree with that. A lot of and a lot of the continuing of the push of statist mentality of moral relativism, and so yeah, I agree with you about the lack of objective morality. You know, and so although there there is there there is a like a purpose. They do serve a purpose, and I'm also at the same time to be a little, I don't want to sound like I'm flip flopping here, but it I'm also grateful for a lot of the alternative media, even the ones that are kind of um, maybe pushing psyops. It's hard. It's really difficult. I'd like to address it to how difficult it might be to prove that somebody is controlled opposition. The staggering amount of evidence that you would need, and then what do you plan to do with that evidence? And do you really think that it's going to do much of anything? I don't know. Um, I don't know if it would, because like what you're mentioning about culture, yeah, the prefix cult. You can't really have culture without a group, without some sort of group mentality attached to it, because it kind of, you know, so you can't ignore the group aspect of it all, and so this culture of like freedom, for instance, like, okay, so if I were to be stuck in a cult, at least I'd be in a cult that doesn't believe in coercing people and making slaves out of people.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
But yeah, about the whole controlled opposition thing, this is something that gets thrown around a lot, and maybe unnecessarily. There's a difference between controlled opposition and somebody who's a useful dupe. There's many big names in the alternative media that I believe are just useful dupes. And you don't really need to, so this requires a definition of the term controlled opposition. And the definition of controlled opposition is a person who, or I mean, well, it could even evolve into an organization, but typically it's a person who knowingly enters into a movement or a scene, make sense of that. They are on the payroll of the government or of a intelligence agency, and they knowingly enter the scene in order to disrupt it and to lead it down the wrong path. So that's the definition of controlled opposition. A definition of a useful dupe is somebody who just kind of buys into the lie, that's being
Yeah.
perpetrated by the rest of the media or the government itself. So it's not, and that person who's a useful dupe might have a large enough audience and they are unknowingly leading them down the wrong path. So controlled opposition versus useful dupe, one knows that they're doing it, the other does not,
Mm-hmm.
is not aware of their of what they are doing as much as the other. So it's very important that we disambiguate those terms, because people throw around controlled opposition way too often these days. And the
Yes.
fact is that Luemas, is that you and I are in the alternative media, whether we'd like to believe it or not, and you don't always get to choose whether or not you're a part of that sort of category. And everyone once people in a movement, if you want to call it a movement, whatever, let's just use the freedom movement for example. Once us in the freedom movement start pointing fingers at everybody and going, you're controlled opposition, no, you're controlled opposition, like you know we're never going to get anywhere. It's
Yeah.
never going to happen. This is why I always express that the need for a massive amount of or maybe not massive amount, but you need evidence, real evidence, to back up that accusation. It's like being in prison and accusing somebody of being a snitch. Well, you need
Yeah.
to have papers. You don't get to do that just willy-nilly, just go around, no, that guy's a snitch. They're going to go, where's the paperwork?
Right. Yeah.
You got to bring it. You got to bring the evidence, and then we can move forward from there.
Right. Yeah. No, and I think that that's a good point. I'm glad you put that out there because there one thing I noticed from a long time ago is there's this he's a shill, that person, you can't trust that person. And that really came in at a certain time when I'm like, whoa, wait, really? What that person's work's not, I can't find anything linked to that person being a government op or something, and so that didn't really do any good to the work that was being done. And honestly, I almost feel like that itself might be a psyop. Well, I'm the people that I meet a lot in that say those things. Sometimes you wonder where's that saying someone's a shill is coming from too, and all this pointing and stuff. I mean, but what we could look at too, though, is what I've noticed come over the last 10 years is what I would kind of call the fake alternative media.
Hmm.
In other words, Trump, Q, Tucker Carlson, that kind of. No, what I mean by fake is it seems like they're talking some of the same talking points that you and I might talk about, but I'll probably throw Alex Jones in there maybe too, but I don't know. I think there was a certain kind of swoop up the Christian patriot types and gather them for this time now kind of thing that happened, I noticed. But basically, what it's a mainstream form of what people have been talking about for years, but not including morality, true freedom, not well, I mean, a lot of these people still believe in government. I mean, they believe in supporting Zionism, and uh believe in politics and all kinds of stuff like that. So I've seen that come in over the last 10 years, over kind of overlaying the stuff that a lot of people that we listen to or been around with have for years kind of talk about, but it sort of is bringing this information in a different direction. You know what I'm trying to say?
I do
Yeah.
for sure. And this is the, like what I was mentioning earlier, like, yeah, the what you're calling the fake alternative media, these are the controlled opposition. I don't believe Alex Jones is controlled opposition. Oh my God. I don't believe it. I think he's a useful dupe. He's most definitely he comes across as a statist, and he has said some really horrific things, saying, his opinions. And I'm not talking about the school incident. That honestly means very little to me that he said that those things. I'm talking
Yeah.
about when he says that Trump should initiate martial law,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when he thinks that that should be okay for Donald Trump to do. When he said when so that's just one example, and there's been other moments where it's like, wait, but then you go and you look at some of the greater context of it, and I'm not saying it's okay for him to advocate for martial law, but we got to face it, Alex Jones is like the whipping boy for the alternative media. And I don't think he's controlled opposition as much as I think he's a useful dupe. I think Tucker Carlson is most definitely, it could very well be that he's controlled opposition given his family ties to the Pilgrim Society, and the Pilgrim Society being attached to the New World Order most directly with the English speaking idea put forward by Milner, and as the um, as the progenitor of Cecil Rhodes's will, this idea of the British Empire regaining control and making sure that the United States gets folded back into the empire. And in order to do that, you need to have planted people in the United States to shift the culture. This is why I call it intergenerational cultural conditioning. Okay, this is a very important term for people to be familiar with. I don't know if I've coined the term myself, but I've been saying it more so recently. I'm calling it intergenerational cultural conditioning, and
Yes.
it is exactly what it sounds to be. And the Pilgrim Society, of which Tucker Carlson's father is a member of, and
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson is also a member of, their job in that society is to gain Anglo-American establishment, Anglo-American relations, and now Anglo-Israeli American relations, and to kind of normalize the idea of the New World Order, things like the United Nations, things like the World Health Organization, things like what's the other one? The WEF, the World
Right.
Economic Forum,
Yep.
making sure that people are just thinking that there's just this elite class of people that get to tell us what to do. The intellectuals convince people that the government is necessary, so we rely on an expert class, which is a part of Cecil Rhodes' plan that he gets. So this has been a plan that's been being put into motion for over 100 years. The entirety of the 20th century was a part of this. The League of Nations, the United Nations, all the
Right.
formations of all these other organizations, the international organizations, the intelligence agencies, all of these things were formed purposefully with the intended purpose to make a one world government, a global panopticon. And the fact of the matter is that the the natural law prohibits this from happening, because the natural state of man is to question, is to discern for themselves. We are
Mhm.
thinking, processing flesh computers, and this is what you see in, if I may go on a tangent here,
Go for it.
this is what you see with children. This is why young children, and I have three, and this is why you see young children. Some of the first things that they start doing is say no, 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 is because we are meant to discern for ourselves. We are meant to find our own comfort in the world. We are meant to find our own boundaries, even when they push up against other people's boundaries, respectfully. Not so our so natural law dictates that we should be free,
Mhm.
and that we shouldn't be, um, transgressing upon other people's natural law rights, and that's how we maintain freedom. And so the whole purpose of all of these controlled opposition in the fake alternative media is to, um, again, bring people into these dead end roads where they can't get out. Because once you're in that dead end road, they're going to block off the entrance, and now you're stuck in there. And once you're in that little space, they're going to go, well, you can move around in here.
Yeah.
You're free to move around in here. You just can't go back. So
Hmm.
this is like what you got to be careful of. Um, but yeah, tangent over.
No, well, no, no, but you're right. I've raised kids too, and the one thing they always do is they ask questions. It's natural for like, well, Daddy, why? It's natural for kids to ask questions and say no, and um, that is our natural way is to ask questions. So a lot of society's been conditioned not to ask questions, and that's kind of how we kind of got partly, well, not saying no and not asking the right questions. That's kind of how we got where we are, and just not knowing to say no. And so, but back to what you're saying is there's like these cul-de-sacs they could get you stuck in, or just dead end roads you can't get out. There's been a lot of there's there's a lot of where was I going to go with this? There's a lot of people that will set camp somewhere, like almost like you have with Mount Everest, you have base camp and you have camp 2 and camp 3 and all that. A lot of people will just go to a base camp and just set up, and that's just good enough for them. They will let Q tell them that there's a plan, and I mean, I think
Yeah,
by now, I think people are pretty much over that. Hopefully, I don't know anybody that still believes in Q, but look, I'm out of the loop. I have no idea. But
I'm not
when
sure I
this,
ever even knew anyone that did believe in Q. I knew those people were out there. I just never. I'm not sure
right,
I ever really met one. I'm I have a couple of suspicions, but no one ever was like, that QAnon stuff. I've been paying attention to it. Like no one ever told me that. And so, anyways, sorry to interrupt. But
no, I saw this funny meme that's had these people sitting around in like an AA kind of meeting, and one guy said, "Yeah, I still believe in trusting the plan."
yikes.
Yeah. But no, I don't think I actually knew anybody personally that believed in Q. I have a very split family politically. So I know people that support Trump, and I know people that are very left too. But I, the people that I know that supported Trump never really believed in Q either. But they believe in government, and they believe that Zionism, they believe in Israel, that being having the right to rule and all this stuff. So there's a lot of things I've seen that. So this is what I was going to say, and I kind of got off subject, but is that this is the guilt by association kind of thing. So when someone like us might be talking about some real stuff, that people that hear this stuff from the outside, they think that we're Trump supporters or something, and so they basically they outsiders to this information hear us talking about like the dark occult running the world or something, and they
Right.
associate with Trump. Oh, you're just one of those guys. Like, no. So that never happened before, but now that's happening, and that's a shame because there's so much deeper knowledge to dig out than what they're trying to portray us as. So it sucks to be thrown in that same basket.
Yeah, I mean, this is just more evidence to the lack of critical thinking amongst the mass population in at least America.
Yeah.
Because I don't really, man, I don't really come into contact with enough people that aren't from America in direct contact on a regular basis to really have a gauge on the amount of critical thinking that's in, like, say, the population of Germany or France. But they're all falling for a lot of the New World Order stuff pretty easily. I think, a lot easier than the people in America. So I don't know. I'll plead ignorance. I really just don't know. But I do know the lack of critical thinking in this country and the logical fallacies and the logical inconsistencies, like what you're mentioning, like lumping us all in, and I want to be careful because, again, like some of the people in the alternative media that deserve criticism, they are serving a function. They're doing a job. They're bringing people, like you said, a part of the way there.
Yeah.
And the thing that's missing though, again, is the critical thinking of the individual that's only been brought a part of the way there. They have to find it in themselves to bring themselves even further. No one's going to do it for them, but they get into this habit, and it's part of the other end of it's like a candle burning at both ends. It's like and you're getting burned, and you have to go to work, and you have all these bills to pay, and all this, all this bullshit that was set up to keep you down. And we're all struggling to get through that. And so I try not to place too much blame on people that are just looking for answers and looking for hope. I just try to keep in mind that we were all at some point or in the same spot as them at some point or another in our lives. And hopefully they get themselves over that hurdle, and perhaps I could help them with that. But yeah, as far as like Trump goes, myself being lumped in with somebody like Donald Trump, I don't personally see that being possible, because on a daily basis, what you find from me is the absolute repudiation of the state,
Yeah.
of the government. But I can see how, so I can see how people would think that, I'm right leaning because of my beliefs of personal property rights and everything. But then, people could also see me as left leaning because of how anti-war I am. And
Yeah.
it kind of throws people for a loop. And
They
then they
don't
don't,
know where to put all the
yeah,
extra
yeah,
stuff.
kind of short circuits them. And so and it's like, no, I'm logically consistent because I believe in property rights. Like, you know, so that's, anyways.
But you know what is good though? At least you can have a conversation with some of these people, these Trump types. I mean, they believe in gun rights. They believe in self-defense. At least and there's some things that you can kind of talk to them about, and maybe even lead them onto a deeper path and kind of help them along the way. So it's not a total loss. Some of these people. So I mean, I don't hate them or anything. It's just that they still believe, like say they're still statists. They still believe in all this stuff, and I think they can learn. Though I think that they don't believe in big government, so there's a start. Maybe I've never had, like, the other side of the coin is when I visit some family I have on the West Coast. They are so embedded in leftist culture that they don't even know it. And the group
Yeah.
think mentality, the knee jerk reactions to things like gun ownership and defending yourself, or climate change, or something like that is so embedded that they you can't even have a conversation. So I mean, I guess there's some pros to this fake alternative media, like, because even Tucker Carlson had on, I didn't see this. A listener wrote me the other day. He had on Dane Wigington from um, Geo, what is it, Geoengineering Watch, about, and they talked about chemtrails on his show. So I mean, there's something. I don't know where Tucker's steering it, but at least people got exposed to it on his show. So it's not all a loss.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know plenty of statists, and they're kind and they're polite,
Mm-hmm.
and I would have them over my house for dinner, and I appreciate them as people, and they're just trying to find their way in life.
Yeah.
The right, the government, the Republican Party is not in favor of smaller government. That's just a ruse. That's just a ruse. the people that are voting for
Yeah.
them, they are sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Right.
I can appreciate that because like you mentioned, the people on the West Coast, they don't even know. Like this is the intergenerational cultural conditioning that I'm talking about.
Exactly.
They
Yes.
they're just it's just their whole life has been this. And so, you know, with people that are advocating for smaller government, for you know, abolishing the Department of Education, for instance, or getting rid of the getting rid of property tax or getting rid of the income tax or do like these things that are getting brought up and being brought into the conversation and you know people are talking about it at the dinner table because you know yeah when that orange douchebag was running this past time in 2024 he mentioned doing these things. We're gonna look into the property tax, we're gonna look into the income tax, blah blah, you know, and so it was refreshing to hear it being a part of the conversation finally, right? It's never going to happen under his president, but the people are starting to support that idea.
Yeah.
And so, with it being an intergenerational conditioning, we got to condition ourselves out of it intergenerationally as well. And I say this all the time for people like, so, like, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but for Loomis's audience, his share of the audience on this, I'll just give the quick analogy of like, you know, you're doing like you're doing a demolition job on your house, and I forget where I heard this from. I didn't think of this myself, but I'm totally just ripping this off from somebody. I heard it a long time ago. Can't remember who said it. That made me go, yeah, I like that. I'm gonna tell people that. And so this is how it goes. You're demolishing a house. You could bring a wrecking ball in and just smash it to pieces, and fucking debris is going everywhere. There's a bunch of dust all over the place, and like, you know, and everything. But you've learned nothing. All you've learned is how to destroy something. And or you could learn how the house was built, and you could take it apart piece by piece, and you could, you know, lay it all out and have it nice and organized and ready to be hauled off. You might even take some of those pieces and build something in its place, and you know, who knows what you could come up with. Point is that there's less chaos when you learn how the thing was built, and when you take it down piece by piece, there's seems to me to be less chaotic than just bringing in a wrecking ball and just smashing it to pieces.
Yeah.
So, being a compassionate person as I am, I tend to err on the side of incrementally destroying the government. Me personally, though, this is me. Compassion has to do with my outward, my look outward toward other people. I have a little bit of compassion for myself. I treat myself kindly and I try to be wise with the love that I show myself. But I know me and my family, we could go. I don't see any services the government's providing me that are going to, you know, other than my local government with maybe like water and electricity and stuff like that. But those are all services that can be provided by private companies that we deal with on the free market. The government doesn't have to be involved in those things.
Right.
And then when you involve the free market, you open up competition. The same can be said for public defense and courts and all this stuff. I'm not coming from a minarchist perspective. I'm still coming from like an anarchist perspective, a voluntarist perspective here. And when you open up the free market and you allow for free competition amongst everything, what you find is that the people get to really have a choice. And I see that being an opportunity for people to exercise their morality and to be making, because no one wants to get a raw deal. Everyone
No.
knows when they're the ones getting screwed over,
Yeah.
and so they don't want that. So yeah, there's a little bit of a, you know, a rational egoist point of view there, but I mean, they also, I think that I honestly do, Loomis, think that people just don't know that by voting and perpetuating this system, I just don't think they really are aware of how much they're oppressing their neighbors by doing so. I think that there's a small portion of the people that are out there that are like, yeah, fuck the Democrats. I'm gonna fucking vote for a Republican, and I'm gonna, you know, they're my enemy, and I'm gonna get them.
Yes. Yeah.
And then there's Democrats out there that are just the same. But I think a lot of people are. I mean, at least I don't know. Maybe it's wishful thinking. Maybe I'm dumb for thinking that, but I don't know. if I see a lot of people that are really that cutthroat out there.
I don't either.
So the idea is to, is to remind those people that they're being logically inconsistent when they're saying I care about people, so I want the government to have control over people, so those people can be controlled and made to do things that I want them to do because I care about them and I love them. It's like, no, that's actually the opposite.
Yeah, totally.
You're enslaving them by voting. You're becoming the master, and you're enslaving your neighbor, and you're also enslaving yourself because you're voting for the master. And then you think that you're the winner. My side's winning. Look at right now. I mean, are we really winning? If we just look at the current situation, we're not winning. No one's winning. There's no
No.
winning this. It's just as easy, I say, to teach children how to be voluntarists as it is. It's actually easier to teach them how to be voluntarists than it is to teach them how to be statists, because it is our natural function. Our human beings' natural function is voluntarism, because you understand what it's like to be harmed. Accidents happen. People are malicious. They do things purposefully, and we have to deal with that situation when it comes up. But the majority of people out there have experienced some sort of harm in their life, and they know it sucks. And they think to themselves, geez, that really, man, I wouldn't want that to happen again. But then they have to think about other people as a result. Well, I mean, it happened to me, and it's not really the coolest thing to do to go around assuming things, but I guess it's well within my right to assume that I just got punched in the face and that sucked and it hurt and I broke my nose. I'd probably be able to break someone else's nose if I punched them in the face, and I wouldn't want to do that because I just experienced that and that sucks. Or I've had my money stolen from me, or my house broken into, or my tire slashed on my car, and or whatever. I wouldn't want that to happen to somebody else. People are naturally voluntarist. They just want to have a peaceful life and get along with their neighbors.
Yeah.
But for some reason we've let the government be the middleman there. And we need to understand that natural law is going to dictate that when we allow a government to exist, the result of that, whether we like it or not, natural law dictates the result of that to be the chaos that we are living through right now. So
Hmm.
we either need to learn to take our hand off of the fire or just get used to our bones melting against the iron.
Yeah. Uh, I like your analogy, even if you didn't invent it, it doesn't matter, um, of slowly dismantling and taking apart like an old house, as you say, because where we need to go is we need to be taking each piece off slowly and going, well, this doesn't serve humanity, and well, government's that big piece that needs to be completely taken off. But um it's a good analogy that you're saying there, because I think a lot of these people that we're talking about too could probably see these points of view if they had a chance to just kind of sit down and really just figure it out, like listen to these truth points here we're talking about.
Yeah.
Another thing you said that I was thinking about when you said it is this idea that we're winning, and that's where it kind of loops back to the beginning. What I was talking about is that fact that there is no movement, really much of a movement, unfortunately. And I don't like to sound negative or give people any bad. There's good things that people are talking about. There's good things that people are doing. I'm not even poo-pooing what they're doing or saying. It's just that there isn't like this great winning situation. And I mean, if we look at just what happened to us 5 years ago, none of those people have gotten arrested or punished for trying to own our bodies. And um, so if we take a look at that, and I think this is where the Trump PSYOP came in, is people were kind of desperate after COVID. They were like, damn, I I don't want this Biden thing to happen. So maybe there's someone that can save us, because they were kind of out of their, this has never happened before in their lives. So they were kind of desperate. And I think that's how people fell for Q. That's how people kind of really thought, okay, well, maybe this last hope is Trump, because he's saying all these talking points that sound pretty okay. And so that's kind of how they kept this group of people that were questioning and like, fuck, no, we're not going to do this. No, we're not
Right.
going to get vaccinated. That's how they collected them, and just sort of made them stand down. And so the fact that we're not winning because basically they stood down and they believed in a plan, or just believed that the guy was going to do all these things and didn't. And now it's time for people to actually see the real truth. And I don't know how it's going to happen on a big scale, but I know that, by trying to help people see it, and at least some of these people might listen. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, all we can really do is try, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so some of the other people in the alternative media, they are the ones that are revealing the pieces that need to be taken down. And it's just a matter of time and whether
Right.
or not people see it for the whole in time, uh seeing the forest for the trees, like
Mm-hmm.
type of thing. Maybe I'm not using that term correctly, but I think
I know what you
people
mean. Yeah.
listening will be able to understand where I'm going with this. Is like, do we have enough time to wait around for the people that we need to see the whole thing instead of just the pieces that they're focusing on? And so it's okay, but I don't think we have enough time to really waste. People need to catch up pretty quickly and understand
Yes.
that the train is going toward the cliff. My buddy Logan Hart, shout out Logan. Um, we were talking on the phone once, and I was joking around about how like we in the natural law space are like trying to tell people the train is going off the cliff, and we're running, and like some people have already they've already understood this and they jumped off the train a mile ago, and then some people are still on the train trying to get everyone else to jump off too before it goes careening over the edge and smashing against the rocks and boom, blam, blah, explosions and whatever, and just chaos. And it's like you're running down the train car and you grab somebody and you're like, get off the train, it's going to fall off the cliff. And they just look up at you and start accusing you of trying to just take their seat, you know. You just want my seat, this train's not going over a cliff, you just want my seat. And it's like, come on, just look out the window, it's going over, the cliff is right there.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty funny, but it's very real, like what we're going through here, with this, so I again, what you were talking about with, like, COVID and everything, like, it's no wonder. I mean, we're trained, inculcated into this obedience to believe in the experts. I mean, that was the slogan, was trust the experts.
Yeah.
But like I mentioned a little earlier in our conversation, like, that's very intentional. It's extremely intentional to place your faith in an outside savior instead of looking inward and realizing the savior that you need is in you already. You just need to unlock that potential and realize that you don't need an expert. You're capable in, to figure out what you as an individual need.
Right.
And I mean, so long as that doesn't include initiating harm against other people or other sentient beings, if we want to really draw it out to its the furthest conclusion. I like to focus on people because it's much more relatable, and you can talk about the dietary stuff a little bit later.
Yeah.
But I mean, but for real, like, it's much more relatable when we just start off with people. So yeah, the savior is in you already, you just need to unlock it. you know but this is the plan. This is a huge part of the plan, is to subvert that and to get you to look to the experts for everything that you need, because that's what slaves do. You don't get to make decisions for yourself when you're a slave. You got to wait for massa to come around and tell you what to do. You got to wait for the Faucis to come around to tell you what to do, or the the Albert Borlas to come around and tell, or the Klaus Schwabs to come around and tell you what to do. You got to wait for these Bill Gates types to come around and tell you what to do. You don't get to decide to take the mask off on your own. You got to wait till the freaking Rachel Maddow or George Stephanopoulos tells you it's okay. You know, you got to wait. Hold on. Don't decide for yourself. Wait for the experts. So this is in real time what we saw during COVID, but it's actually been something that's been going on in the background for a very, very long time. And it's like in certain other cases throughout history, you can see, and it actually kind of looms around all the time when it comes to government, like in the police, in the military, like when there's a national emergency, like God bless the people that are able to respond to those and to help people and to get them out of, deathly situations and whatever. This is why I don't write off the need for public defense, the need for emergency response, because nature is a bitch. A hurricane comes through and wipes out a town, and you need people that know how to operate under pressure like that and to get things done and help people get out of the rubble. Like, you need that.
Yeah.
It's just a fact of life. I just don't think that the government should be in control of it.
No.
At least, I think that people organize much better for their needs when it's done on the ground level instead of like from on high. So it would be kind of an experiment in the modern day to do things in a comparatively primitive way. So but I believe I have faith in the goodwill of men and women, and so they would be able to organize and figure it out. A little clue that I've been noting that, and I'm not the first to notice this, but it seems pertinent for this conversation. A little clue as to just how much anyone really cares about being logically consistent is the outcry of Democrats in the past year, or since the inauguration of the big old wrinkly Cheeto man, Donald Trump. The outcry of release the Epstein files. And it's like, yo, your boy Biden was in for 4 years and you guys didn't say a goddamn thing about it. In fact, I remember being called a conspiracy theorist because I was talking about a sex island where they were raping kids. Oh, sorry. We can bleep that out if you need to, but
no, anything goes on my show. It's fine.
But yeah, I was being called a conspiracy theorist for saying that stuff, and whatever, by certain people. And now people of that ilk are now out there saying release the Epstein files. It's like, okay, so they don't really care. They're just trying to make waves. We got to stop that. We are very delicious and very plump and ready for the picking as prey when we are divided.
Yes.
And we need to take control over our emotions, our thoughts, and our actions as individuals, understanding that the desire to cause harm there's no place for the desire to cause harm to your other fellow people, and that the government and the powers that should not be are getting off on the fact that we've ignored that fact for far too long, and they thrive off of it. In fact, it's like candy to a baby. They love it. It's in fact the thing that powers them, because government, if you're not familiar with this term, Loomis, you know what an egregore is?
Yeah, but remind everybody.
Okay, so an egregore is it's a spiritual entity that only exists because of the belief in it. Okay, so kind of like in some ways, in the novel, in Stephen King's It, Pennywise the clown is an egregore. Once the losers club stops being afraid of it or Pennywise, it gets weak.
Yeah.
Right. Same with government. Government's an egregore. It's only in the belief of statism that they draw their power. And so if we can stop believing in that power and we start taking that power into our own hands and realizing that we have the capabilities of making decisions. In fact, that is our natural state, is to make decisions for ourselves. then we gain the power back. We take it back,
And I
you
think
know.
people would be more fulfilled in their lives by having more of that power, because I look at how people live and I feel like they feel like they're missing something. And I think it's some of that's part of that. It's like they've stripped our power away from us, and that way to be more sovereign and be more of have more of a role in our lives than just to go to work all the time and work for the not just for money but just and obey government and
Right.
and so I think there when you said division, a thing came to my mind, and I don't know, I wasn't really going to go this direction, but we are talking about the alternative media, and one of the things that I noticed that came in um, kind of around a time when a lot of people were kind of coming together with some of these um, these movements like the free mind conferences and Anarchapulco and stuff, is psyops started to come in to the truth community more so and divide that and break it up. One of them would be, well, I did a show with Sean and Mark Passio, Flat Earth, and
Yes.
that one really has kind of hit close to home because I can kind of throw this other Trump stuff away and go, yeah, I'm not, I don't know anybody that's like that, but when it came to that one and maybe a few others, it's people like you and I more so that fell for that one. And suddenly people are arguing about the shape of the earth.
Mhm.
And I think the dark occultists found a fake conspiracy that works for the personality type of conspiracy minded people. And they know that they have flawed executions on how to come to truth. Some people don't come to objective truth, don't use the trivium, and now people go down this path and they're picking apart the world. They got 9/11, they got COVID, they got JFK, they got shootings and whatever that were probably false. And then flat earth is waiting for them in the same package. So it's crazy to think that too. Well, yeah, there was this you remember the final experiment? I don't know. Did you hear about that?
Where the flat earth guy proved himself wrong.
Well, there was like three flat earthers and three people they call globe earthers, but they went down to
Yeah.
Antarctica to capture the 24-hour sun,
Yeah.
and then they go down there and they find a 24-hour sun, which goes against the flat Earth models, and people refuse to believe it and say that thing was a psyop, and so you
Right.
have a lot of flawed um, ideologies, like I was saying at the beginning, that like everything's such a psyop that you can't believe anything anymore, and that part of things is also a big problem, and I'm seeing it divide our this kind of community of people.
Well, it almost becomes religious. I mean,
Yeah,
not almost. It does
it
become
is.
religious, you know.
Yeah,
And for the record, like I don't care what shape the planet is.
me neither.
What I care about is that there's a ruling class trying to keep us all enslaved, and we'll be able to find out the truth of whatever else is left after they're dealt with. Like so,
Yeah.
it's something I don't pay much mind to. I've never looked into the flat Earth thing, and I kind of chuckle about it a little bit. Um, and but I mean, I don't know. Should Do I need to put my hat in the ring and have an opinion on this? I don't think I really care enough
No,
for.
I get attacked by them though, so I thought I'd throw that in there. I get
Yeah,
attacked by them, and I'm like, you know what, man, I really don't care either. But when it has become such a divisive thing in the
right.
community, that's what I care about,
Well,
because
it's
I can have a
poisoning the well.
it is, yeah, I can have a conversation with a lot of these people, and we're on the mostly on the same page. But when this came in, that's another thing. And then if I start talking to somebody from the outside about, yeah, they're spraying the sky today. Oh, do you believe the earth is flat too? I'm like, no. Just like, oh, you must be one of those Trump guys. So, it's just
Right.
go.
I mean, it's fuel for logical fallacies. That's all.
Hmm.
That's what it comes down to. You know, is it's like what you just said. Lumping you in with with the rest of a group, tinfoil hat wearing, crazy kooky, people, kooky conspiracy theorists. Like,
Hmm.
no, I just believe in personal sovereignty and that I don't want to be a slave. Oh, what are you, a flat earth guy? Huh? No, that's not what I said.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's poison for the well, and yeah, poison for the worldview. um and I remember hearing, and I won't name the person, but there's some out there that might know who I'm talking about. And he was on a podcast with, and I'll name the person he was talking to. He was talking to Flat Earth Dave and David Weiss,
Hmm.
and who I've never talked to. He seems like a nice enough guy. I think he might be a
Sure.
little bit on a grift, but I've heard a couple of podcasts that he's been on or whatever. Um, and again, not really doing much flat earth research, but I just like I don't know. I listened to like one or two of the things that he was on. It seems like a nice enough guy is what I'm trying to say. But anyways, the host of the podcast this time was like, if you don't think the earth is flat, you're not really spiritual. Like, you can't be a spiritual person if you think the earth is a globe. And it's like, whoa, dude. Like, that's a that's an incredibly bold thing to claim.
Yeah.
And so I lost a little bit of respect for that person when they said that. And so, anyways, but yeah. So like the psyops and everything like that. Uh, the a lot of people in the alternative media space, they kind of thrive on these things, and they find a huge audience when they're talking about them, because
Sure.
I mean, these topics are attractive, like they're pretty attractive. And um the problem is that, by the time you realize that, you wasted some time, it's too late. You're just so bought into the thing, like something like flat earth, or
Yeah.
something personally that bothers me is like everything's a hoax, or everything's a
Yes.
false, like
That.
everything's a false flag. I
Yeah.
don't I don't I don't know. I don't think
Everything's a
everything is a
psyop.
false flag.
Everything's a psyop. That was what I was talking about. Everything's a psyop kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think everything's a psyop.
No.
um I think that, that's another thing that kind of gets fed to the people,
Hmm.
and you got to be careful. So with a well-trained ear, you'll be able to hear whether or not you're being duped by somebody that you're putting stock into when you're listening to them. And the major tell, and with a well-trained ear you'll be able to hear this, is if somebody that in the alternative media is really advocating for the existence of government. And so one way to be able to tell if they're really doing that, or if they're just kind of talking about the government existing, well, you got to be able to see the difference between those two things. So, somebody might come right out and say it, like, well, the government exists and this is what they should do because they exist. Okay, that's not saying that you think the government should exist. You're acknowledging that they do, and the power that they have should be used in a certain way. And then there's people out there that, flat out deny a stateless society, or a minarchist society. To the
Yeah.
very least, it should be minarchist. But there's people that out there that are like, we need the government because of this and this and this and this. And it's like, no, all of those things would be easier. They'd be more efficient. And, it would just be more affordable if you let the people organize and figure it out themselves. So I always try to remind people that this is a telltale sign of somebody who's just like kind of leading you down the path, and
Yeah.
kind of keeping you trained into thinking that the government has the right to do the things that it's doing, It has the right to coerce people into paying taxes, and it has the right to conscript young men into war should they find the need to do so. All of these things are slavery. Slavery is wrong. And it's time that people connect those dots to the
Yes,
government and the things that the government is capable of doing. Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess so. I mean, if we were going to kind of put all these strands, we'll kind of wrap it up soon. If we're going to try to put all these strands together, we're looking at an alternative media that's kind of pretty fragmented. There's a lot of layers and a lot of camps out there, but ultimately what we do want is freedom. I mean, all every I've done a lot of world travel, and every country I go to, what are people complaining about? The government. They're complaining about oppressive government or just this and that. And
Right.
like everybody wants to be free. Everybody wants to just live their lives and raise their kids, or come home and enjoy themselves. I mean, people all over the world pretty much want the same thing, but I guess us with the voice of in this alternative media, we have a responsibility to be saying the right things and going with objective truth and trying to untwine people from these cul-de-sacs and these ways of not going all the way, or also just wasting time, like we talked about with flat earth or whatever thing that is the next thing they come in and waste your all your research time on, so I guess that's something I just spouted out there. But I mean, I think to kind of say that I think that there needs to be more definitions to in this alternative media.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so being a proponent of freedom, I love it. I want more of it. I want all my freedoms, right? Because like um, that's the ultimate goal is to be absolutely free. And
Yep.
so I don't want to disparage people, and I don't want to come across as the type that's like, no, you're not allowed to do. No, you go fill your mind with whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I would just like to kindly and politely remind you that there is a big game being played, and it's being played with all of our lives. And it's come time that we wake up to the fact that the people playing that game with our lives don't have the right to do that. And the only way that they're going to be stopped is if we team up against them. And
Yeah.
so you can fill your head with whatever nonsense you please, whatever nonsense you want. Um, and I'll be here when you're ready. I'll be here when you're ready to hear some blue collar worker stumble over his words and try to help people figure out how to do the right thing. And that's it. Just for doing the right thing's sake. Like that's the solution. And to not tolerate those who are doing the wrong thing or trying to make you do the wrong thing. Remember, like I said in the beginning, you own yourself. Other people
Yeah.
don't own you, and government existing, that's a claim of ownership. It's saying we have the we this group of people has the right to make all the rules and to tell all the rest of you what to do, and you're going to pay us for it. And you don't get to say no. When we say something is law, you don't get to say no. Like we saw in COVID. I mean, there were some mandates. There were never really any laws. They
Yeah.
did try to pass a mandate. They did try to pass a vaccine mandate, and that is a serious encroachment on your individual liberties. And man, are we lucky that that kind of that chapter kind of closed itself for the time being. It was about to get
But,
really messy, I think.
but for the time being, and that's the problem is they'll try something again. I
Yeah.
don't know if they're going to do that again. But there's a ton of people that did wake up from that though, and
Yeah.
um, That's a
Or to
good
the
thing.
very least, they're
Yeah,
more aware.
they're more aware. Right, right. But that's a good thing, and these people can be talked to, and that's important. And I think, like I said, with even the Trump people and whoever, they can at least hear the converse. They can at least understand the conversation, and then hopefully they can latch on to some new ideas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, um, it's not too hard to understand natural law, and it's not too hard to understand to want to be free. So those are actually pretty easy steps to take, to, at least in my mind. Maybe I'm way out there. I don't know. I don't think so though, you know.
It's actually so simple that it's like baffling.
Yeah.
And we're thinking machines, and we're incredible problem solvers. And when we've solved enough problems, we start making more. So we have more problems to solve. So when something like natural law comes around and it's like, yeah, there's a deep study into natural law that you can dive into. And there's the shallow end where like you can get the gist and understand enough to then carry yourself forward into the deep end and learn how to really swim, right?
Sure.
So, but I mean, we all understood these things when we were kids. You
Yeah.
know, that's my toy. I let you play with it and I'll give it back. Like, like, no, don't spank me. I don't like being spanked. Oh, that bee sting fucking hurt. Or like, oh, like I fell down and skinned my knee. I know what it's like to get a laceration or an abrasion on my skin or whatever. And like you learn these things when you're a child. And then, schooling comes in and kind of inculcates obedience to the state into your mind and your young, impressionable mind. I mean, think about it, Loomis. If you were to wait until you were like 20 years old to start going to public school run by the government and they were trying to tell you at 20 years old that they were in charge of what you were allowed to do, you'd be like, get the fuck out of here. No.
Right.
So they put it in kids' minds. And that's why it's, again, intergenerational.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we got to be vigilant. You got to be ready, and you got to be willing to perform right action in face of uh so much influence to do wrong and to be immoral. You got to stand brave and say, no, I'm not doing that. You can't
Yeah.
make me. I don't want to, and therefore I'm not going to do it. So you own yourself, period.
Yeah. You own you.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's also like it's also like, yeah, you own yourself, like, yeah, but you also got to own yourself. You got to own it. Like when I was growing up, I used to work in kitchens, and you'd make mistakes, and there'd be a large enough crew at some of these places where you might think you can get away with blaming it on, some other guy, made a mistake, or you didn't prep enough of something, or you forgot to, whatever, you screwed something up. Oh, maybe they'll think it was somebody else. Maybe they'll think it was the new guy, and they might come up to you and ask you, "Hey, did you do this?" And I had a chef at one point. I witnessed him go, if you did this, you got to own it. Just own it,
Yeah.
and we can make it better or whatever. And that put the idea in my head, like, yeah, self ownership is more than just like being in charge of your own body. It's also taking responsibility for the things that you do, and understanding that you are the cause of a lot of things. And
Mhm.
when the effect of that is poor, or not beneficial to somebody else, you got to own up to it. So owning yourself is much more than just my property. Like, well, are you able to are you ready to be responsible?
Right.
Are you
Yeah.
ready to be an adult?
It's like I came into this a little bit differently. I became an anarchist in 2003, but I didn't understand natural law.
Right.
So I said, yeah, no government, fuck no, no government. I don't want government. Yeah, but it's like you like no rules, fuck all the rules. No, no,
Right.
there's a whole system behind it. So I didn't know that coming into it. So I came into conspiracies actually a long time ago, like 1999, um, and then I
Oh, what
became
a
an
year.
anarchist. Huh? What a
What a
year.
year.
Yeah, a long time ago. It's
Yeah.
crazy how much.
I mean,
So,
like Y2K. I'm sorry I'm not trying to.
oh yeah, yeah. Just, but it was kind of a cool process and all, but had I known about natural law before all that, I'd probably be in a better place than learning it the other way around. But um, hey, everybody has their path, and it's just the way it came into my life. I mean,
Right.
actually, I'm going to have to say PSYOP showed me all that a little bit later on. But
Yeah.
it, yeah, I think that I forgot where I was going with that, but
No, everybody has their own path to walk. Yeah.
yeah, no, I came from fuck it all, the fuck it all mentality, like fuck all this, fuck it all. But
Yeah.
there's a whole responsibility behind that, and yeah, some of this needs to fuck off so we can actually live our lives, of course, but we also need to be moral people, and that didn't come in till later. But yeah, there's a whole process behind learning that you own you as well, and that
Right.
you also need to treat others the way that you want to be treated. I mean, it's so simple, but there's,
I mean,
like
it
say, that's
is.
a shallow end of the pool,
Yeah,
but
it
you know
is.
that can be learned.
Yeah,
That
it
can be,
is. Hmm.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is very simple. Welcome to Voluntaryist Academy.
All right, welcome people are.
What you said about oops. I accidentally stopped the video. My bad. Well, the last few minutes of that, we'll make sure to get that in there in post. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up and being in the chat. And yeah, that's Luemas from Chant It Down. Go down to his website, chantitdownradio.com. Check out my website, voluntaryistacademy.com, and tell me what you think of this episode in the comments, and do all the nice stuff to help gain a little bit of traction on the channel. I really appreciate it. Really sucks that I pressed the wrong button there. Not like me, but I'm sitting here at my desk and I accidentally pressed a button on my Stream Deck on my desk here. Anyways, so yeah, that was that. I'd like to wrap up by kind of saying that the alternative media serves a pretty important purpose. Too often and for too long has the mainstream media has had its talons, its teeth in the flesh of people's minds, and telling them what to do and what to believe, telling them what the truth is. They claim to be objective, and just like the old Bill Hicks joke goes, if you're not familiar, they call themselves the news. Go look up that joke if you want to know the rest. It's pretty fun stuff. So yeah, go over to voluntaryistacademy.com, check out all the ways that you can support the channel, and you can help keep it going and growing, as I like to say. I think that's it. Next week, I don't have any interviews planned for this next coming week, so I think I'm going to get back to Men Against the State, and going to try to wrap that up by the end of the year. Then after that, I'm going to probably get into this book behind me, The End of All Evil by Jeremy Locke, and get that on the channel. And then after that, I have some interesting ideas to kick off the new year. So between the wrapping up of Men Against the State and doing The End of All Evil, that should carry us right to the new year. And then we're going to start the new year off with a new direction. Not really. Actually, that's the wrong way to say it. With I don't know, some different stuff. And we'll be able to have some fun. I just got this big copy of the Anti-Federalist Papers, and I'm thinking about maybe just kind of reading some of this to y'all out there and see what people like Patrick Henry Robert Yeats and Samuel Byron were writing about back in the late 1700s, after the formation, after we fought and won the war for independence. So they were against the federal constitution being formed, hence the anti-federalist papers, going with the Federalist Papers written by Alexander Hamilton and John Jay, and some more. I believe there's other writers involved in the Federalist Papers as well. So that's kind of some of the ideas that I have going on at the moment. And then actually, I don't know if I have clearance to announce this yet, but there's a conference coming up, an online conference coming up in early 2026. So that I've been invited to give a speech on, and the speech that I'm working out is going to be titled "Voluntaryism: The Defense Against the Dark Occult." Working title, maybe not. So anyways, guys, thank you again for tuning in to Voluntaryist Academy. I really appreciate it. Man, what a great talk. I gotta go though. I love you guys. Peace.